The Tour de France, the most grueling cycling race in the world, a battle of the strongest where riders push beyond their limits. But sometimes, the price is too high. In this video, we dive into the tragic stories of 5 cyclists who lost their lives during La Grande Boucle. Stay until the end because number 1 is perhaps the most tragic accident in cycling history. Francisco Cepeda was a Spanish climber, born in the early 20th century. He was not a major name in the peloton but participated in the 1935 Tour de France as one of the few Spanish riders at the time. During the descent of the Col du Galibier, one of the toughest mountains in the Tour, Cepeda lost control of his bike. He crashed into the rocks and suffered severe head injuries. In an era when cyclists did not wear helmets, head trauma was often fatal. Cepeda was taken to a hospital in Grenoble but passed away a few days later from his injuries. This made him the first cyclist ever to die as a result of an accident in the Tour de France. His death caused an uproar at the time but did not immediately lead to safety measures, as helmet use was only made mandatory much later. Simpson was one of the most successful British cyclists of his time. Born in 1937, he became a national hero through his achievements on both the road and the track. He won the Tour of Flanders in 1961, Paris-Nice in 1967, and was crowned World Road Race Champion in 1965. But despite his talent and success, his life came to a tragic end during the 1967 Tour de France on the infamous Mont Ventoux. The 1967 Tour de France was brutally hot and extremely demanding. On July 13th, a punishing stage awaited the riders, featuring the climb of Mont Ventoux, a barren, scorching mountain in southern France, infamous for its unforgiving conditions. Simpson was riding well, but struggled with the heat. As the climb progressed, he began to swerve on his bike. Witnesses saw him wobbling, but he kept pedaling, determined not to give up. About 1.5 kilometers from the summit, he suddenly collapsed off his bike. His team and bystanders rushed to help him. According to legend, his final words were, "Put me back on my bike." His team helped him back up, but just a few hundred meters later, he collapsed again, this time for good. He lost consciousness and medics administered emergency aid. A helicopter was called, but it was too late. Simpson passed away en route to the hospital. He was only 29 years old. After his death, an investigation was conducted to determine the cause of his sudden collapse. Amphetamines and alcohol were found in his system, a fatal combination. These substances suppressed his fatigue and pain, allowing him to push his body beyond its limits, even as he was already severely overheated and dehydrated. At the time, doping controls were lax and the use of stimulants was widespread in the peloton. Simpson's tragic death became a symbol of the dangers of doping in professional cycling. Fabio's tragic end in the 1995 Tour de France. Fabio Casartelli was an Italian cyclist and a rising star in the peloton. Born in 1970, he won the gold medal in the road race at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, showcasing his immense talent. However, his career and life were tragically cut short during the 15th stage of the 1995 Tour de France, in one of the most horrific crashes in the race's history. The stage took the riders through the Pyrenees, a treacherous mountain range with high-speed descents and sharp turns. As the peloton descended the Col de Porte d'Aspet, tragedy struck. Casartelli was riding at over 88 km/h, 55 mph, when he lost control and crashed into a concrete barrier at the side of the road. Without a helmet, since they were not yet mandatory, he suffered severe head injuries upon impact. Other riders also crashed, but Casartelli's condition was far worse. Medics rushed to his side, attempting resuscitation, but he was unresponsive. He was airlifted to a nearby hospital, but he passed away shortly after arrival. He was just 24 years old. The day after his death, the Tour de France paid tribute in an unforgettable moment. During the next stage, the entire peloton rode together in silence, allowing Casartelli's Motorola teammates to cross the finish line, first arms linked in his honor. Later in the race, Lance Armstrong, one of his closest teammates, won a stage and pointed to the sky, a tribute to his fallen friend. Agostinho was competing in the Tour of the Algarve, a Portuguese stage race. During one of the final stages, disaster struck. As he rode at high speed near Quarteira, a careless dog ran onto the road in front of him. Unable to react in time, Agostinho crashed violently to the ground, hitting his head. In an era where helmets were still not mandatory, he suffered a severe skull fracture. Despite being clearly injured, he got back on his bike and finished the stage, a testament to his toughness. However, soon after crossing the finish line, he collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. Agostinho was taken to a hospital in Lisbon, where doctors performed emergency surgery. Sadly, despite their efforts, he remained in a coma for 10 days. On May 10, 1984, Joaquim Agostinho passed away at the age of 41. André Darrigade was one of France's greatest sprinters, but in the 1958 Tour, he was involved in one of the most shocking accidents in history. In the final sprint of the race, he collided at full speed with a race official. The impact was so violent that the official later died from his injuries. Darrigade, though injured, survived, but he carried the weight of that tragic day for the rest of his life. The Tour de France is a race of legends, but also of tragedy. These riders gave everything for the sport they loved, sometimes at the ultimate cost. Who do you think was the unluckiest rider in Tour history? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe on our channel for more videos about pro cycling insights.